What if a routine immigration stop didn't go as planned, and suddenly you find yourself in a high-stakes real-life thriller? This is the bizarre story of Nigeria, PTSD, fear, misunderstanding, and one federal agent who suddenly became the unintended passenger in an SUV.
A federal operation turned alleged kidnapping transpiring between Plymouth and New Hope yesterday afternoon, as local law enforcement did their best to piece together what was going on.
And so our officers are just kind of sorting through the chaos.
Plymouth Police Chief Eric Fadden says his officers were made aware through 911 dispatch calls that a Homeland Security Investigations agent had reportedly been kidnapped by a detainee inside the detainee's car.
Meet the two protagonists of our strange tale. Oluwadamilola Ogaluwa Bamigboye, 24-year-old Nigerian national. Rakia Lonisha Fraser, 23-year-old woman driving the Jeep. They're described as a couple in custody in Minnesota. Questions immediately emerge. Are they criminal? Were they plotting a kidnapping? Or was this a terrifying misunderstanding? Let's unpack the facts, like detectives making sense of a ticking clock in a snowstorm. Began on a cold afternoon outside an apartment parking lot in Plymouth, Minnesota. Homeland Security Investigations agent were surveilling the area looking for Bamigboye, who allegedly overstayed a student visa. A civil immigration matter, not violent crime. The agent spotted him getting out of a Jeep SUV driven by Fraser. Agents approached, badges shown, plain clothes, attempting to identify themselves. Then, the movie moment happened. Bamigboye moves to the back seat. One agent tries to pull him out. Another agent hops in to stop the Jeep from fleeing. Fraser puts the car in drive. Chaos. The Jeep moves forward. One agent gets trapped inside. Another gets pushed out. Bamigboye calls 911 from the back seat. Fraser drives, not to escape, but straight to a police department seeking help. If this were the French Connection, it would be the scene where the gateway driver thinks she's driving to safety, while everyone else thinks they're in mortal danger. This is where things get legally and psychologically tangled. Government story.
So our officers are just kind of sorting through the chaos.
Plymouth Police Chief Eric Fadden says his officers were made aware through 911 dispatch calls that a Homeland Security Investigations agent had reportedly been kidnapped by a detainee inside the detainee's car.
It's not something we hear every day, especially in Plymouth here. So obviously our senses were, a little elevated with that.
It's unclear so far what led to this situation, but Chief Fadden says multiple 911 calls came from inside the car. Police say the situation began on the 4300 block of Nathan Lane North in Plymouth and ended roughly 5 minutes away in front of New Hope City Hall.
The New Hope police officers came on scene. They made contact with the federal authorities and verified what was going on. And then the federal authorities ended the operation in our city, directly in front of our city hall.
New Hope Police Chief Tim Hoyt says once his department confirmed it was a federal operation and no one was hurt, they left the scene.
We don't go one side or the other. We're just here to keep our residents safe.
Police say a woman was also in the car being detained by federal agents in front of New Hope City Hall.
If there's ever an instance when we can be notified ahead of time so that we know this is going on, all of that just is preferable for us as an agency.
Federal prosecutors say they trapped a federal agent in a vehicle and drove off, which means the legal definition of kidnapping or abducting a federal agent. Defense narrative? The couple claims it was a massive misunderstanding. or fear guided their actions. But Mayboy later said he reacted that way because he has PTSD from previous trauma, specifically a kidnapping experience in his home country. Fraser may have thought they were trying to escape a dangerous situation. She drove to the nearest police station, not into the woods. This isn't a scripted heist. It's closer to the opening of Fargo. Ordinary people, fear, cold, and a chain of misunderstandings. And here's where irony bites. They drove to law enforcement, not away from it. But Mayboy, Nigerian national in his early 20s, allegedly overstayed a valid student visa, so his immigration status was at issue. Fraser, young woman, driving a Jeep. Little public background beyond her role in the incident. No evidence so far shows violent criminal history before this moment, but context matters. This is not abstract. Many immigrants from war-torn countries have lived through kidnappings, insurgencies, or terror groups. Trauma can skew what the brain perceives as danger or a threat. So when someone in plain clothes approaches you with badges that aren't star bright, FBI or CSI levels, fear can hijack logic. Think of The Sixth Sense. Everyone's seeing the same scene, but the meaning differs. The agent sees duty, the couple sees danger. But Mayboy may have relived past the kidnappings, decades of trauma framed by real history in Nigeria. Nigeria has had high-profile kidnappings like the Chibok schoolgirls and violent criminal syndicates. And with fear in the driver's seat, the brain signals fight or flight, not due process. They didn't plan a Hollywood-style plot. They reacted. And in real life, fear doesn't wear a screenplay credit. The couple has been formally charged with assaulting a federal agent tied to Homeland Security investigations. Here's the twist. One federal agent was apparently unfamiliar with the area, which added to confusion and fear. They are both in custody. The government sees a federal crime. The defense sees a tragic misunderstanding. In courtroom drama terms, this is A Few Good Men meets Mr. Spiff Goes to Washington, except nobody is sure who's telling the truth, and intent is everything in U.S. law. Isn't just another crime story, it's a mirror. What happens when fear overrides recognition? When immigrants with trauma encounter law enforcement, when plain clothes and badges don't translate across cultures or histories. It's not just about did they kidnap an agent? It's about why it felt like the only option in that moment. Sometimes the monsters in a story aren't villains, just the people who saw danger in the dark and reacted. And the law, like a camera lens, will now decide whose version is in focus.